Alright, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what to do. Right here, right now, we got the one, the only, the king of the underground. We got Scotty Mac on the line. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I am doing great. I hope everything's all good with you out in New York during this terrible pandemic.
You know something, man? Things were kind of touch and go here in New York for quite some time, but I am happy to say that things are getting slowly but surely better here in New York, and I'm able to do some things now with moving my brand and my career, but it's not to be on your platform. And by the way, congratulations for that award. I've been peeping you, man. Congratulations. You're doing a real good job.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. I personally did not believe I was going to win an award. Like, I knew I won, but, you know what I mean? It was kind of a surreal moment because I never won a trophy before. So I didn't believe it until I got it in my hands, man. I got to say, it's an absolute honor. And it's individuals like yourself, man, that with the positive feedback that really fuels me just to keep going.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, man. One of these days I'm hoping to put something in my hand, But I have no problem, just keep on grinding, keeping on pushing, just making sure that one of these days I can put something in my hand. But again, congratulations, you just showed the fruits of your labor.
But I do have to ask you, Scotty. Like, what made you decide to get into the music industry initially?
That's interesting, man. What happened with me was I was always really, really interested in music, and then when I was really young, I started learning how to play the drums when I was really, really young, and then my mom sent me to a performing arts camp for 8 summers in a row, and I'm a drummer, so playing the drums just really got me involved in wanting to learn how to do more music. And then eventually, after some time, I sat down over the time that I was, in the camp. I sat down and said, you know what? I love to write because my mom's also a published author, so writing was kind of in my blood. So I decided, let me go ahead and try writing out. So I started to write, and then I started putting music behind my lyrics, and I said, okay, this isn't too bad. So I continued to listen to some of my favorite artists of my inspiration, like Nas and DMX and Run DMC and Curtis Blow and all these guys. And I would just pay attention and study them. And then over the course of the next 2 years, when I went away to college, over 4 years in college, I filled up maybe 10, 11, 12 different notebooks just with stuff I wrote. And when I graduated, I came home, I said, you know what, maybe I want to try to give this thing a shot, and kind of be involved in the music because especially in hip-hop, because I love hip-hop music, I love rap music, it's been ingrained in my blood for so long, I said, let me go ahead and see how I do with this now. So at 22 years old, I came home, I worked, I saved my money, invested in myself, I bought some recording equipment, I put it in the basement of my house. I'm going to let you know, I didn't know what mixing master meant, man. I didn't know what engineering meant. I didn't know what any of that meant. I just do beats, bars, music, record, put it out. That's what I knew. But what was great about that was I did it all on my own, and it wasn't the greatest quality, but it was mine. And then I got discovered by a local promoter, and he put me on the stage with my own set in one of his showcases because I was hype man for a lot of different people at the time. And I guess you could say the rest is history because since then I have things have been crazy for me. It's a lot to keep up with, but you know what? I'm blessed right now to say that I can do it.
And speaking of crazy, man, one thing I noticed as well, that you actually had the opportunity to perform at Carnegie Hall, which, if anybody knows New York, Carnegie Hall is actually a huge, huge establishment. If you actually get to perform at Carnegie Hall, that is phenomenal. I have to ask you, how did that come to be for you, man? And what was it like performing at one of the most famous, auditoriums of all time?
Oh man, I'll never forget how that happened. So, like I said, the summer camp that I went to, it was a performing arts camp, and I was in the concert band as a drummer. And the last year, I was a camper at that camp, the performing arts camp. The camp was called Youth Band Camp for the Performing Arts and Recreation on Long Island, and the last summer I was there, it just so happened to be a historic summer because if I'm not mistaken, it was, I think, the 60th summer, 60th year. and what they were doing is for anybody who was in the band that year or the orchestra, whoever the case may be, they were going to be given a handwritten invitations from Carnegie Hall and from the former owners of the camp to perform at Carnegie Hall. And it just so happened I was one of those people because I had been going to the camp for so long and I had been part of the concert band for so long. They absolutely wanted me and others to be there, and to say it was the most exhilarating experience is an understatement. Why? Because I got to walk in the Carnegie Hall, and I got to see some of the amazing musical and dance acts you have ever heard of, who ever graced that stage. I got to see people from classical composers to funk musicians to soul musicians, you name it. Elvis Presley, but if anybody who had performed on that stage to say that I was on the same stage as those same legendary musicians was nothing short of probably one of the greatest achievements I've ever had in the music industry, just in general, my music life. And I don't know a lot of people that can say they've actually done that, but I can say that I have. And like you said, it's one of the grandest stages for musicians on the planet. So, from New York Philharmonic and, just anybody's been on that stage, and I was happy to be there.
And what I always notice is no matter where you are in the world, the people will always know what Carnegie Hall is and the Apollo Theater. Those two places will always be solidified worldwide.
Absolutely right. Absolutely.
And also, aside from the music tip of things here for a moment, I also noticed that you went to college to be a school teacher. I have to ask you, what made you decide to start studying teaching, and what made you kind of jump to teaching rather than hip hop?
You know something? Teaching was always something I had thought about doing and wanted to do, because the one thing that I will always say is that when you are doing something to positively affect the youth that we in this world, you're doing that is one of the greatest gifts you can give somebody. And I also come from a long line of educators in my family, so I guess you could say being an educator was something that I was kind of, in a strange way, born to do. And I wanted to do it, and eventually, I had a lot of people in my life who would say I would be great at doing it. But more importantly, I love working with kids. I love the youth, and the youth is you want to impart knowledge onto young kids and young folk, because you want them to know and understand that there are more than just the things that they say you can have, and one of the best ways to do it is to educate them on it. And I can say, I went to school to become a teacher, and I'm actually currently getting ready to start my 6th year in education as a school teacher. I am a school teacher, but the one thing that I will say also is that as being a school teacher, the great thing about being also in the music industry and being a teacher is I can use hip-hop and use what I do in the music industry to help drive my instruction as a teacher, and it actually gets the kids heavily engaged. Because one, they can go home and tell their parents that their teacher's a rapper. And number two, it's something that a lot of my kids really love. They love hip-hop music, they love rap music, and to say that I can do both right now is amazing. So I encourage a lot of people to use your passions to help you in the classroom, because you'll never know what that'll do for somebody who's young.
And speaking of the teacher side of things, have you ever walked in your classroom one morning, and heard your students just listening to your music? You know what I mean? Have you ever heard your students listen to your tunes?
Oh yeah. So funny story about that. What happened one time was I was teaching in Brooklyn. It was my third year teaching in Brooklyn. And one morning I had come into school. I was getting myself ready, and next thing you know, at the time, my kids, they're now 8th graders. They're going to be 8th graders. They were 6th graders at that time. And I was teaching them then, and one day I'm just standing at the door waiting for my kids to come into school, and sudden, I'm hearing one of my songs, a song called Bad to the Bone. I'm hearing Bad to the Bone, Bad to the Bone. I'm going, where is this coming from? And I go into the hallway, and it's my class singing my song as they walk down the hallway into my classroom. And I went, how did they find that? And it turns out that one of the kids in my class had an older brother who was watching YouTube and happened to Google me and find me, and he showed him, and the next thing you know, it just spread across the school, and all my students were singing my song, and next thing you know, all the kids, all the other sixth graders, the seventh graders, the eighth graders, everybody was singing. Then within about a week, I became the most popular teacher in the entire building simply because my students found my music. So that was fun. I'm not going to lie to you. It was a bit of a shock, but then again, you give a kid a smartphone or something these days, they'll be able to find something within 3 seconds, not even. So, that was dope. I love that, and to this day, some of my students will still call me. Some of my former students and current students will call me and say, "Hey, we love your music. I want you, keep putting out great music." So, when you can hook the kids, you're doing the right thing.
And also, you were a member of the Long Island-based team Dark Rain Royalty LLC. I have to ask you, tell us a bit more about that, and how did that come to be for you?
Oh, yeah, man. That's my team currently right now, Dark Rain Royalty LLC. Shout out to the CEO and founder of Dark Rain Royalty, my management. His name is Rogue Steve. Shout out to him. That came to be because a mutual friend of ours, at one point, he introduced me to Rogues, and he said, "He's got a great movement going on. You should talk to him and link with him." So I hit him up one day, and he said, "Hey, I got a show that I'm running and helping to bring artists to in New York City. Would you like to be part of it?" And I said, "Sure, I'll definitely do that." So I jumped on. I did that show with him. Him and I had a conversation. We got a chance to talk some business, and he said, "Well, I'm not looking for anybody new right now, but I'm gonna keep my eye on you." And he kept his eye on me. Literally, he was always watching everything that I was doing. So a couple of months later, he put the post up on social media saying that he wanted to look for new members to join his team. So I hit him up and I said, "Hey, what do you need me to do?" He said, "I'd like more information." He said, "Send me your EPK and music links and we'll talk." So I sent him everything. He texted me back about an hour later and says, "It's one of the best ones I've seen. Let's set up a meeting." So that week I set up a meeting with him. We had a long conversation. He brought me with him somewhere, and then he brought me to another performance he was doing, and he said, "I'd like you to join the team." So at that moment, I joined the team. A little shy of a year later, I signed on to the team officially. I was working with the team a lot, and this is my team now to this day, and we have been all over the place. We're making a lot of moves. I'm also, just to note, I'm also the Chief Operating Officer of Dark Rain Royalty LLC. I'm the second in command. So not only am I an artist, but I'm also a businessman as well. So, you got to be able to know the business and have the talent to be able to make it in the industry today. So, shout out to my team, Dark Rain Royalty LLC, and my manager, Rogue, for bringing me on.
And also, 2 years ago, I also noticed that you were a part of the Dementia Awareness benefit. I have to ask you, tell us a bit more about that. And of course, if our listeners want to, where can they actually go to donate to that amazing cause?
Oh, yes, thank you. So, thank you for bringing that up. That was actually one of the first projects I worked on when I came on the Dark Rain Royalty. He's a medical assistant, and he had a patient by the name of Ernest who was a patient that had dementia, and he wanted to do something for him and all the people who suffer from dementia and families that suffer from dementia. So we ran a benefit, and we partnered with I can remember the name of the organization. We partnered with a couple of different ones, but one in particular for Dementia Awareness. It was a great event that we actually had two different events. We had one at a place called 89 North Venue, which we had some guest speakers come in, and we had a couple of musical performances, acts perform that night, and people donated money. And then later on in the evening, we ran another show at a place called Shaker's Pub on Long Island, where we were able to run a second event with performances, and a lot of other people came in. I performed that night as well, and they were able to come in, donate money, and have a great time. And there were drink specials and everything. And everything that we did that night went to the cause for Dementia Awareness. If I can remember correctly, cannot remember the name of the organization, but once I remember the name, you can always go to their website and donate to that cause, because dementia is something that is really, really heavy, especially now with the time of COVID-19. A lot of nonprofit organizations are going to need some help. So I absolutely, positively will tell you, if you have the time and you have the funds, or just a little bit, every little bit helps, by all means, jump in there and donate to that amazing cause. We appreciate it.
And also, I noticed as well that you actually had the opportunity to open up for KRS-One, man. Personally, one of my top 5 rappers of all time. But I have to ask you, what was it like opening for KRS? And of course, did you have the opportunity to meet him?
Oh man, let me tell you, that to this day is probably the biggest show I've ever had an opportunity to be on the stage for. Because it was, first off, KRS-One performed in my hometown. Okay, my hometown of Amityville, Long Island, New York. He came to Long Island and performed that night. So to say that I was able to open up for him in my hometown with so many people from my hometown watching, and so many people that came from out of town to see him perform, because it's really rare for KRS to come back to New York and perform. So when KRS came, first off, the room, it was a standing room only show. But when I tell you, you could barely stand without having somebody in front of you or next to you, I couldn't, my goodness, the place was packed. I hadn't seen a place packed like that for a show, and a local-like show in forever. It was incredible. And then to not only open up for him, but when I went backstage to have the opportunity to shake the man's hand and thank him for all he's done for the culture, first off, I was starstruck. I won't even lie. I was starstruck. I'm standing in front of a pioneer. I got to come correct. And it was amazing. KRS, he was so humble, but that man's the king of the boom bap. So, he brought that blast master energy out there, and it was ridiculous. Like, meeting KRS-One, opening for him in my hometown, nothing like it, y'all. So, I mean, if you ever get an opportunity to open up at any place for someone that you grew up listening to, you grew up idolizing, I would say do it. So, amazing experience to me. I don't think I've ever had a bigger show.
Like, because I was wondering, did he actually listen to your set? Like, did he compliment you or bring up like what you did on the stage?
He did. He had a chance to listen to a little bit of my set. Because I was actually performed with someone. We were a duo that night. He got a chance to catch a little bit of our set. He didn't catch the whole, so he caught like the last 10 minutes. But the best part was, he said he loved what he heard from the two of us, especially from me, and for both of us actually. And he said he gave me the best piece of advice, and the best piece of advice that he gave me was the energy that you bring is the energy you need to keep no matter where you go. And ever since I heard that, I perform with the same amount of energy no matter where I'm performing. So shout out to KRS-One for that advice, man. And I was blessed to meet and perform with him.
Well, most definitely shout out to KRS-One. Most definitely sounds like a very, very humble, down-to-earth individual.
Absolutely, he is. Absolutely. He's very smart, too. Very smart. So you got to make sure if you want to have someone kick you some knowledge, let KRS be the one to do it. he got you.
And also, recently you released a single titled Get to Know Me. I have to ask you, what's the inspiration behind that single? And of course, where can our listeners buy or stream themselves a copy?
So the story behind that song is interesting. When I first did that song, first things first, the song Get to Know Me is actually a 5-year-old song. I recorded the song back in 2015. It was one of the first songs that I ever recorded in the studio with the engineer who I work with now. His name is Stigmata. Shout out to my man Stigmata Productions from Long Island, New York. So he was one of the first songs I ever recorded with him. The story behind that is that when I decided I really wanted to take this more serious and be more professional about it, I decided I was going to do this and say, if I'm going to do a song that rings bells, I need to do something that rings bells so hard that nobody forgets who I am. So I was shopping beats, and I happened to find the beat that's playing to this song, and I said, "Oh, I like this." So I sat down. I was literally leaving the studio after just being in the studio just to hang to watch how my engineer Stigmata works. I didn't want to see how he worked. And I was leaving the studio on my way home, and while I was on my way home, I was listening to the beat. As soon as I got home, I said, something about this was speaking to me, and I said, I can hear my name somewhere in this song. So all of a sudden, I looked to the beat, and I'm saying, S-C-O-T-T-Y back, S-C-O-T-T-Y back, and I went, whoa, I like that. So I wrote a pre-chorus. And then after I wrote the pre-chorus, I put that right after that, and then I created the hook. Because part of my writing process is I try to create the hook first, and then I craft my bars around the hook so everything makes sense and lines up perfectly. So after I got the hook, I said, "Oh, this is great." So then I started writing the bars, and then as soon as I got everything down, I went and I copped the beat, and that very next week I was in the studio and I recorded this track. And the reason why I recorded this track and I wanted it to be like the way it is because I wanted the song for the people who knew me to be a reintroduction to the game, and for the people who didn't, it was my introduction to the game. And I've actually been performing that song across everywhere I've been for the last 5 years. I know it seems crazy, but I said, you know what? I'm going to put a new mix and master on it through my engineering team and then re-release this song the way that I probably should have done it 5 years ago. But the reason why it was so great that I released it when I did is because the timing just wasn't right for a while. The timing was perfect this time around, and I released it on my birthday. And I guess that you could call it very apropos because the song's called Get to Know Me. It's about me, and I released it on my birthday. So you can go and get my single on all digital music platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, Deezer, YouTube. You name it, you can stream it on there, or you can also purchase it on Google Play or iTunes or any other purchase like digital platform. Whatever you do, go out there and get the single. It's all over the place right now. So by all means, the song Get to Know Me, SCOTT, available everywhere, y'all.
And also, just last month in July 2020, you were actually featured on the cover and inside of IMM, International Music Magazine. I have to ask you, how does it feel to be on the cover and also inside of an international magazine?
I mean, to this moment, when I still, I have a copy of it myself, obviously, and to this moment, I still can't believe that I made the cover of a magazine that's being distributed worldwide. Like, to this moment, I still can't believe it. And I was so, taken back that when I got a chance to actually have to be on this cover, when I was told by the owner of the magazine that he loved just my picture and my story alone, he wanted to put me on the cover. I had to sit there and think for 1 second, how is this? Because is this really happening? And then when the announcement came up that I was going to be the cover artist for that month's issue, I actually had to like just catch my emotions for a second, because to say that you were on the cover of a magazine that's distributed internationally and you're a local independent artist, there's no better feeling. Now the world gets to not just hear you, but they get to see you and read on your story. And I was all over that magazine. The cover, I had a nice 3-4 page spread. There were the parts of my single on there. It was absolutely incredible, and I was so happy and so impressed with the way that happened for me. And I just say, if you have something that you want to do and you dream of doing it, I'm telling you, go for it. Let it happen, because you will be absolutely stunned at what will happen if you just be patient. I always saw myself on the cover of a magazine, and I got a chance to do that. So shout out to International Music Magazine for having me.
And I gotta ask you, Scotty, what is next for you? Is there anything I happen to miss during this interview? Anything else you would still like to promote? We still have you here live on 97.7 Outlaw Radio.
Oh yeah, man! I got a couple things I'd love to share with y'all. So actually, y'all follow me. First off, follow me on social media. Follow me on Instagram at MRMAC040. That's Mr. Mac 040. You can also follow me on Facebook at Scotty Mac 40 and Twitter at Scotty Mac 40. Follow me on those platforms for digital first social media. I actually have an animated music video coming out for this single this Friday night at 7 p.m. 7 p.m. obviously Eastern Time, 4 o'clock Pacific Time. So if you want to catch my brand new animated music video, which will be out again this Friday, August 28th at 7 p.m. Lock in. Make sure to my social media. Also subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you can catch it there. That's going to be amazing. I'm also, now that things have kind of cleared themselves up, be on the lookout for the live action, for the live video of Get to Know Me. I'll be shooting that very, very soon, and that will be released in the coming months. So be prepared for that. Also be prepared if you are in New York and you support the Black Lives Matter movement. Me and my team, Dark Lane Royalty DRR, will actually be in Ossining, New York this Saturday, promoting and being on the stage for the Black Lives Matter rally in Ossining, New York. That is going to be starting at 4 o'clock p.m. in Ossining, New York. By all means, please, if you can, come and show support for that event. I would really, really love to see y'all there. There's going to be a bunch of other old school acts and a bunch of other great acts. Shout out to our manager, our team manager, Douglas Howard, for putting us on. Why that's so significant is because we were actually requested to perform. We had someone who saw us perform when we opened up for DMX back a couple of months ago. So I would say, you got a chance to come down, by all means, come on down and support the movement. Come watch us do our thing on the stage. Of course, new music is going to be dropping real soon. I got a couple of things that I'm going to be dropping really, really soon, so be on the lookout for that. I'm here, y'all. I'm ready. Scotty Mac is continuing to move. Also, just make sure you follow me on Instagram. I have a clothing store for all things Scotty Mac. By all means, check out my clothing store. The link will be in my bio for that. That's all. That's about it. I could go on forever about all the stuff I'm working on right now, man. But I'm just going to keep things light. Make sure you follow me on social media. You can catch everything. Oh, yes. And let me not forget, I am also 7 straight weeks. Get to Know Me, my single, has been on the digital radio tracker global indie charts for 7 consecutive weeks. So that means that it's below the digital radio tracker is obviously big with digital radio. That means my song has been playing on digital radio across the world, across the country for the last 7 consecutive weeks. I've been on that chart, the top 150 chart. So continue to check me out. Scotty Mac is here, baby. Let's move.
And the one thing I gotta touch base on, when you said you opened up for DMX, I have to ask you, DMX is actually like one of my favorite artists of all time. So I gotta ask you, man, what was it like opening up for DMX? And of course, did you have the opportunity to meet the dog?
Unfortunately, Unfortunately, I did not have an opportunity to meet the dog, but what was awesome is that we got, not only did we open up for DMX, but we opened up for DMX not too far from his hometown. So that was amazing because there were a lot of people there that DMX like grew up with, and people who were from his neighborhood. And when DMX pulled up, he actually pulled up with like a police escort. Like, that's how deep this was. Like, so that's why I wasn't able to meet him even though I was backstage, because he had a lot of protection, and DMX actually had somewhere else to be when he showed up. He was coming from somewhere. He came and did his set for like 15, 20 minutes. Then he left because he had another place to be. But it was amazing to open up for the dog, man. And I'm just glad to see that the dog is still doing his thing even with everything we got going on. Shout out to X, man. That was dope.
But Scotty, so this is the time of the interview that I give a chance for the individual that comes on the station. This is a chance to give shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to. And if you can, I know you said it a few times, but if you can, drop them social medias one last time. That way our listeners have the opportunity to pull out their phone and hit that follow button for you.
No doubt. Let me just give a couple of quick shout outs. Number one, I just want to shout out my beautiful fiance. She's my number one fan. So I always start off my shout outs when I have any radio interviews with her, because she is again my number one fan. I think it's important. So shout out to my fiance. I want to shout out my team, Dark Rain Royalty LLC. We are here making major moves, making headway in the game. So shout out to my team. Shout out to my management, the Rogues P, for being just an amazing manager and always just keep me on the right, on the right path, and making sure I'm making the right moves. But he also allowed me to do me. Shout out to my family for always being supportive of all my moves. Shout out to my engineer, Stigmata, for being just being him and being a guy who I consistently have worked for the last 5 years, and he always knows my sound. Shout out to my artist who is currently working through me under my label that I have, Team Scotty Mac Entertainment. Shout out to my artist PJ. He'll be coming out real soon with a lot of stuff under my tutelage and guidance. So shout out to my artist PJ. And one more time, y'all, here's all my social media. Instagram, follow me at MrMac040 on Instagram. That's Mr. Mac040. Follow me on Twitter and on Facebook at Scotty Mac 40, at SCOTTYMAC40 on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you guys again. I'm looking forward to all the great things I have coming up for the rest of 2020. And again, I hope everybody is staying safe. Everybody is taking care of themselves, washing their hands, doing everything you're supposed to do to stay safe and stay positive during this time of the pandemic. Please, by all means, do that. And again, follow your boy Scotty Mac, man. I appreciate you having me on your platform today, man.
You are most certainly welcome, and thank you again for taking the time out of your busy evening to come on 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM. It truthfully was an honor, and most definitely a privilege, and I hope we can make this happen again soon.
Thank you, man. Hope to talk to you real soon. Take care.
You as well.